last month the random roulette gods were pretty kind to us, which means this month has a lot to live up to. One can only hope that there's another lineup of solid games ahead of us. So, let's get right to it and find out. Well, off to a great start. I will say it's definitely a pick up and play kind of game. Overall, it's pretty basic, but that's not always a bad thing, right? A punches, B kicks, and C jumps. Yep, not too much to figure out here. The graphics are... well, the sprites are large. The sound effects, though, are absolutely fantastic. I do love how enemies just fly off the screen when you kill them. I also like the fact that you kind of pick your own path, which is kind of cool. Like I said, while the game does seem pretty basic, I feel like it lures you in with a false sense of security. It doesn't necessarily seem hard, just basic. And like I said, sometimes that's not a bad thing. Then you make it to this stage. Instead of enemies to contend with, there's a bunch of annoying-ass boulders. You know, I try to keep this channel clean, but I can't be the only one that thinks these rolling boulders look suspiciously like... well, I don't know what. Seriously, this stage is frustrating. Anyway, thankfully I have seen other people play this game. Otherwise, I would have had no idea you can just go down these pits. It always irritates me in games when they have you make blind falls into pits. It really creates trust issues. I can't imagine why. It's not like pits are typically some sort of death trap. Also, the jumping in this game is crap. Just trying to jump over these swords or whatever they are that fall from the ceiling is a nightmare. And of course, I ended up dying. Oh well, I'm sure the game has plenty of lives and continues. Are you fucking serious? Yep, you get one life and one continue. Let's move on. Not only is this our first handheld game, but a Japanese import as well. Well, what can I say? If you've played Adventure Island before, you kinda know the deal. Personally, I don't have a ton of experience with these games, but I think I know enough about them. The music here is... something. The scrolling can feel kinda off at times, but it is a Game Boy game, so I'll try to forgive it. Like other Adventure Island games, you start off pretty weak and helpless. Eventually, you'll find an egg and gain a weapon. Find another egg, and now you're Tony Hawk. Well, considering the Flintstones-esque kind of vibe, it's more like Tony Rock, am I right? Aw. Find another egg and now you're riding a dragon, which is pretty awesome. It's funny because somehow the skateboarding feels more unrealistic than riding a dragon. The levels are quite short, which I kinda like. For a handheld game, the graphics are okay. I mean, we are playing a Game Boy game on a GameCube using the Game Boy player. Man, Nintendo really likes the word game, don't they? Almost as much as Sony loves the word play, or Microsoft loves faulty consoles. I'm just kidding, even though I've never had a Sony console fail on me yet. My original Xbox stopped reading games, I had another one's power supply blow up on me a few years ago, 2 experiences with the Red Ring of Death, another 360 that stopped reading games 2 months after I bought it, an Xbox One that just stopped powering on one day, and an Xbox Series X that, well, that one's still working at the time of this video. Anyway, enough about shitty made modern consoles. Eventually you make it to a boss where you fight a giant wall nipple. Also, these birds kind of look like they've been hanging out at a Grateful Dead concert. I'm not sure what else to say about this game. I'm guessing there's also other animals that you eventually befriend, but this is pretty much how far I made it before I lost interest. I've never had anything against these games. I think they're fun in short bursts, but never really had the desire to see them through to the end. Well, let's check out the last game.
Shotgun the Forever Man! Shotgun the Forever Man!
Yeah, they're still here. This is a game I've wanted to talk about for a long time. First, let's get the name out of the way. Chalkin, Chakan, I don't know, my friend Matt and I just always called him Chakan. And if you don't like it, well, Chalk can kiss my ass. Well, mediocre's better than nothing. The premise of this game has so much potential. Also, the intro is pretty badass. Anyway, you play as Chakan, or Chalkin, whatever. A warrior so confident in his abilities, he challenges death himself in Mortal Kombat. Well, I guess that wouldn't technically be Mortal Kombat. But then again, some sources say Shao Kahn is immortal, which wouldn't that mean the entire Mortal Kombat tournament is a lie anyway? Chakan emerges the victor and death grants him eternal life, which is apparently what he wanted. However, in addition, he's also cursed to wander all of existence until all supernatural evil is eliminated. So now he's on a mission to defeat all the supernatural evil. You know, I think things would have been easier if he just didn't challenge death. Anyway, it's kind of a cool premise. Silly, but cool for 90s standards. You start off in a hub world where you can travel to 4 different levels based on different elements, like fire, water, air, and earth. There's also a bit of lore to flesh out the story when you enter each world. The music in this game is, well, it exists. The hub world music is decent, I guess. The air level music is almost kind of rockin' though. But yeah, that's about it. At first glance, you'll think you're in for a good time. Chakan himself is a pretty cool character who wields dual swords. The animation looks nice. He controls okay for the most part. He even does this cool little spin jump. But then you start actually playing the game. I don't necessarily consider the game difficult, at least not in a fun, challenging way. More of an unpolished, maybe even unfinished mess of a game. All the pieces are there, except for the gameplay, which isn't really that important, right? The level design also leaves a lot to be desired. Also, you remember that cool little spin jump I mentioned way back in this video? It can be irritating at times, because it only works if your jump is ascending. Once you start descending, you're shit out of luck. This can feel frustrating at times. The programming in this game could have used a bit of work as well. Hell, even the spider can't bear to live in this perpetual hell and simply phases himself out of existence. There's additional weapons that you can acquire that will allow you to access previously inaccessible areas, which I guess I should mention the game isn't necessarily linear. You can pick the order of the levels. However, as mentioned, you will need to find certain weapons to access new areas in each stage. To this day, I never know where the hell I'm going in this game. The levels do feel kinda like a maze, and some enemies can take way too many hits. I do gotta mention, I've always loved the sound effect this enemy makes. I don't know why. Nostalgia, I guess? I should also mention there's potions that you can collect that you can combine to gain temporary abilities, like invisibility, invincibility, and even powering up your swords with elemental powers. I feel like mastering the potions is the key to making any progress in this game. I do believe there's a hack someone made that actually fixes a lot of the issues with this game. I definitely do want to check that out at some point. Also, I believe there was supposed to be a comic book tie-in, which probably would have been significantly better than how this game turned out. I would love to see someone make a modern remake of this game. Like I said, all the pieces are there, it's just the implementation isn't. But as far as a winning game goes this month, I could give it to Chakan for nostalgia reasons, but as far as fun goes, I think I'll give it to Adventure Island 2. Well, I can't say this month was a winner, but there's always next month.
Chakan the Forever Man! Chakan the Forever Man!